Hello everyone, welcome back to the Java Track series. We're now on to the second video of the Java Track series. We're making decent headway right now. There's a lot of information I want to cover throughout the course of this video about the tools that we'll be using throughout the remainder of this course as far as coding in Java. And then I also want to be able to provide you some perspective on how to go about installing and setting up some of those tools. This is primarily going to be an environment setup video, very crucial to the work that you're going to be doing in this course. If we have errors at this stage, then it's going to hinder our ability to produce great Java programs for the remainder of this course. So it's very important that you get all of this information down, and if there's errors, maybe go back and check as far as some of the steps that you've conducted throughout the course of this video. Definitely reference this video as many times as necessary until everything is operational and functional. So without further ado, let's get right into this. And what I want you all to do on your ends is navigate to a web browser of your choice. So as you can see from mine, I'm using a Google Chrome browser. You can use Edge, Safari, Firefox, really any browser of your choice. It doesn't really matter. And then in the address bar, navigate over to google.com, and in the search bar, let's go ahead and type in download Java Jdk. And the reason I want you to go about downloading some of the tools from Java is because these are the tools that will be necessary in order for you to be able to write Java programs. These tools have to be installed prior to you actually writing Java code. And there's also a distinction that you see right here. So on the contrary to other programming languages where you can just go ahead and potentially go in and type in download Python or something along those lines, you see us writing in download Java Jdk. You might ask, what is a JDK? So in Java, there's two different types of toolkits you can use. You can use a JRE, a Java runtime environment, or a JDK, a Java development kit. And the difference between the two is that the JDK provides a compiler in addition to everything else that the JRE provides. And then obviously, the JRE does not provide that compiler. So if you remember from the previous lecture, the introductory lecture where we talked about a Java lifecycle, the lifecycle of a Java program, we've gone through exactly what that compiler does. So if that seems like a foreign concept to you, it might be beneficial for you to reference back to that original video and refresh some of that content on the lifecycle of a Java program, just to provide you a very, very high level quick refresher through this video. A compiler essentially takes in the code that you have in the IDE, and it'll put it through a compiler and give you an output of machine independent code. And that's going to be in the form of something we called bytecode. And when you look at the file extension for those files that are actually produced as a result of taking your code and passing it through a compiler, you're going to see that it's a .class file. Again, it's a very high level overview. But if you go back and look at the lifecycle of a Java program, all of that will make a lot of sense to you. And you need the capabilities of a compiler, because without that, all you really have is the JVM. And the JVM is great. The JRE in that instance is also going to be great for when you want to run Java programs, because you don't actually have to compile that code every time you want to run it. You would merely take the stage of the machine independent code, pass it to a JVM, which is already in the JRE, and then you can go ahead and interpret that code, and your computer will be able to run that program. Whereas if you're writing your own Java code, every time you make a change to that code, you would have to go about the process of recompiling that code into new machine-independent code that would then get passed to the JVM. So without that compiler, you actually wouldn't be able to do very much with the code that you write in your IDE, your Java code that you write in that area. So that's why we're going to go about actually downloading a Java JDK right now. Let's go into it and let's click on that first link. If you also remember from that first lecture, we've talked about exactly when Oracle has now taken over the rights to Java, and they actually are responsible for maintaining Java, which is why you'll remember now that Oracle is actually going to be the primary source where you get Java content. So we want that JDK. We're going to come navigate over to the Oracle site and then hit that JDK download button. And let's just wait for it to load up. Let's go ahead and perfect. Okay, so we've now gotten to the stage where it provides us a number of different options, and this could look very intimidating for you and looking through it. But what you have to know at a core level is what is the operating system that you're using on your computer? Is it a Linux-based system? Is it a Mac system? Or is it a Windows system? On my platform, I'm using a Windows 6 system, and it's also a 64-bit system, which is why I can go about the process of navigating over to the Windows x64 installer, and then I can just go about the process of clicking that and initiating the download process. And obviously, if you have a different operating system that your computer is using, navigate over to the corresponding download link and be sure to download that at your own will. Once it's downloaded, be sure to just click on the download to prompt the next stage of the process. Should be opening up any moment now. Perfect. And let's see exactly what happened. There we go. Something's happening in the background. Perfect. So when the pop-up comes on a Windows computer, at least, you can go about the process of just allowing it to make changes. Then let's move on to the next process, next part of the process. So it's now brought up the installer, and we can navigate through the installation wizard. Just click next. It'll put it in a default location, and then let's go about the process of just letting it complete installation. Now, this part of the process could take some time. Just bear with it while it completes. Once this is all set up, you won't have to do this every time you're running a Java program anyways. Go ahead and let that complete. So once it goes about the process of installing successfully, you can just close out of this. We won't need that for now. The next thing you want to do is, again, just go back to your address bar in your browser and navigate over to Google. And we're going to have to install another key tool that we're going to be using throughout the course. And it's something that us programmers call an IDE, or Integrated Development Environment. And the IDE is a very powerful program that allows you to code in that program and also provides you an additional set of capabilities that are super powerful when going about the process of actually writing your own programs and then also debugging those programs, looking for errors. And Java has many, many great IDEs that we can potentially use. Let's just go and search up best IDEs for Java. We'll get a quick link that comes up. We see over here that there's a small widget that Google has already included for us. We'll see a bunch of the common ones: Eclipse, IntelliJ, NetBeans, BlueJ, JDeveloper. And these are just a few of the most popular IDEs for Java. What we're actually going to be using throughout the course of this lecture, throughout the remainder of this course as well, is going to be that Eclipse IDE. To be honest, you can use any IDE that you want for Java specifically, but do so at your own will, because the examples we'll go through in this course are actually going to be based out of Eclipse. It shouldn't change things too much, but there's always the chance that something doesn't work properly, and then you have to go about the process of actually debugging where that error is coming from. For simplicity purposes, I would recommend that you stick with Eclipse, but let's say you have a lot of experience with another IDE that you prefer to use. In this case, it could be IntelliJ. Feel free to go ahead and use that instead of the Eclipse IDE. But what we're going to do is, again, just go to that search bar, Eclipse IDE download, and then we'll go navigate over to the download on eclipse.org. And perfect. We'll get this pop up right here on this website, and you can just go ahead and download the correct version of Eclipse right from here. So it's a bit of a larger file. It might take some time for it to download. Hopefully not too long. You might go about just clicking on it. It's going to take some time. Okay, perfect. So the Eclipse installer is now popped up. Let's just give that a moment. All right, so what we want is the Eclipse Ide for Java developers. And this is going to provide you the capabilities that you need for everything we'll cover in this course. We're not going to get too far into it where we'll need any of the Enterprise Edition things or the web-based products that Eclipse provides you. So let's just go ahead and click that Eclipse IDE for Java developers, hit that install button. We'll see that the installation immediately begins. Okay, well, it now seems as though everything is installed successfully. Now we can get into the real interesting components of what I was planning for this lecture. Let's go ahead and hit that launch button. That's going to take you immediately to your Eclipse IDE, and it'll boot up right then and there. All right, perfect. So once you get to the IDE launcher, it's going to select a workspace for you. This is going to be the default workspace. I wouldn't worry too much about this right now, especially in your earlier stages as far as creating new workspaces for you to work on. Just know that this is essentially where all of the programs that you write are going to get stored in a singular, easy to access location. So don't mind it too much right now. Just keep the default workspace. Go ahead and hit that launch button, and you might not have this pop-up. I've had previous versions of Eclipse already on there. I'm just going to go ahead and hit continue, not worry about it too much right now. And then Eclipse should go right ahead and start up. Okay, perfect. And you also won't have all of these on the package. These are all previous projects that I've worked on in the past. You won't have these same things pop up. So that for now. And what I do want to show you is a few core things that you should know how to do within Eclipse in order to write your own programs. So we can close out of this donate tab right now. Don't need to worry about that. When you first launch your Eclipse, what's going to happen is it'll bring you to a workspace, and then you'll have all of your open projects on that Package Explorer tab right there, and you'll have some information in this area. Right now, you won't have this information. Don't want to worry about that. All of these tabs are open. These are, again, just previous projects I've worked on. Let me just go ahead and close out of them very quickly. Okay, so now that we're starting from square zero, what we want to do is create our own project. And the project that we're going to be working on, especially coding in your first Java program, is a program that every computer scientist starts off with in a new language that they're learning. This is a foundational program, and some of you may have even heard about it. It's that Hello World program. The objective for this program is to be able to print a message to that console, and that message in this case is going to be Hello World. In order for you to go about the process of creating your own projects in Eclipse, what you'll have to navigate to is that File tab, and then go ahead and select New, and then right after New, Java Project. And for now, what we can call this project is, let's just call this project Hello. Let's use default location. Use all of the standard things that are right here. Don't have to worry about it too much. Let's hit next. This also looks good. Let's then go ahead and hit finish. And then what I want you to do is click on the left arrow next to the project you've just created. You'll see something with the Jre System Library. Don't have to worry about that too much right now. This is going to have a lot of those built-in functions, methods, things that we've talked about that makes Java super powerful, is a lot of those built-in capabilities. And that's where a lot of that information is going to be stored. What I do want you to go to is that SRC folder. Click on that, left click on that, and then once you left click on it, go ahead and right click on it. And what we want to do is we want to create a file that we can actually write our Java code in. And this should be a file that should be pretty simple for now. And we'll be able to run the main methods directly from there. And that concept of the main method won't make too much sense to you right now. As we go about creating the rest of this project, hopefully a lot of those concepts become a whole lot more clear for you. So just go to right click on that src folder, go to new, and then we're going to go to a class. And because Java is an object-oriented language, everything revolves around the concept of classes. I don't want to get into too much about exactly what classes are right now. I'd much rather save that for a later lecture within this course. What I do want to talk about is the rest of what we want to code in. So for now, just know that a class file is that file that you'll have to create every time you want to create or you want to put in new Java code into a specific project. So for now, we can call this, let's call this the main class. So in that name text box, just go ahead and type in main and hit finish. And that'll create a default package for you. It'll also create this public class main. So any code that you write within this class is considered a method of this class. And you'll be able to do a lot of cool things later in the course, but for now we want to keep it very simple. Every Java program, in order for you to execute, will need this standard method, and it's called a main method. And this has to be somewhere in your Java project. It doesn't have to be in every Java file you write, but it does need to exist somewhere in every Java project that you write. And the way that we'll go about setting up this default main method, just think of it as a mandatory method you have to write for every Java project in order for you to be able to actually run that project. And I'll go through the steps right now of showing you how to set that up. You just need to type in public static void main lowercase, and then in the parameter, those are going to be string args. We can go ahead and open bracket, close bracket, and those are the only things that you need. And once you have that main method set up, that's going to serve as the foundation for the rest of our Java program. And really writing a message to the console only requires you to make use of a very simple Java method. And that is a built-in method that comes within Java. You want to make sure your cursor is located also in that main method, because any code that you want to execute every time that you run a project needs to exist within that main method. So let's just make sure we're right in there. For indentation purposes, I've gone about actually navigating over to the one tab space. And what we'll need to do is just remember, anytime you want to print to the console, you're going to have to use something called a system.out statement. And because we're printing to the console, we'll have to do a system.out.print statement. And let's not put false in there, but rather we want to print a message to the console. And for us to do that, we'll have to use a string, what we call a string in Java, which is just a data type that we can store messages in. And we can output those messages then through methods like print. That won't make too much sense right now. Just know that this is something that we'll touch upon in the next video or two. But for now, just know that strings in Java, whatever message you want to type to the console, needs to be enclosed in double quotes. So let's just keep it at that for now, and let's go ahead and have those double quotes. Inside those double quotes, we can go about having a hello world message written right there. Okay, and then we can just go to our project, and we'll make sure that it says build automatically. Perfect. That looks ideal. And what this is going to do is it's going to print the hello world message directly to that console. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click that run button next. And this is how we go about the process of running our own Java programs. Let me just go ahead and hit run. It's going to do select resources to save. That's fine. Just hit OK. And then perfect. We now have a hello world message that's written to the console. Now, what if you want to go about the process of actually adding another message that you want to print to that console? We can do the same thing right below, and we can have a system.out.print, and we'll have message 2, let's say. And again, we don't need to check the build automatically. Again, in the project, we've already done that before. Let's just go directly to run. Let this just be okay, and we'll see. Oh, perfect. So we got hello world, we got message 2. And you might be thinking to yourself, okay, well, it's great now that I have 2 messages that are printed to the console. But what if I want those 2 messages to be printed on subsequent lines? How would I go about the process of doing? The cool thing about Java is that it makes it really easy for you to actually go and do something like that. So right here where we see our system.out.print, that print method actually takes whatever your message is explicitly, and it doesn't add a new line character or that carriage return at the end, which would move any subsequent text to the next line. So if we do want to use a print method that allows you to move all subsequent messages to the next line, we can just go ahead and use something called a println or a print line method. And if we go ahead and run that, we're going to see that the next message is printed on the next line. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to see. Now, if we also go about the process of changing this print method in line 2, also with a println, we'll see if we were to type in any subsequent text even after this message, that it would all be on new lines. So we can do it. We won't see any real changes on the console right now, but just know that if you were to add in more messages even after that it would be printed on that console in new lines as well. Perfect. So we've covered a lot of what you needed as far as the tools in Java that you need prior to coding in Java, and how to go about the process of setting those tools up as well. We also have gone through a very, very basic program where you can take a message, any message. It doesn't have to be this hello world message. You can put any information you want, any text information you want in between those double quotes, and that message would get printed to the console. It's a cool thing that you can just experiment with. I highly encourage you to try different things out, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then really get a feel for how to use that print method and that println method that we talked about in this class. We also touched upon the concept of that main method and how to really go about setting that up. So that was a great addition to this lecture as well. Aside from that, I think we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to get through with this specific video. Stay tuned for future lectures, and we're going to go dive much deeper into Java over the course of the next few lectures. Hopefully you all stick around and are enjoying the lectures as they come out. I'm really excited to be sharing some of this information with you, and I hope you all stick around for future videos. Thank you.